Do you remember specific events, historical events that passed by as you're growing up, as you're in lower school, high school, then in college, things that impacted on you?
Yeah, like everybody, I remember exactly the moment when John Kennedy was shot. I remember Marilyn Monroe's death. I remember the Cuban Missile Crisis. There's a work in our repertory called Monkey Run Road, which is trying to talk about the afternoon. My brothers and I were home alone, and we heard that that Armageddon was about to happen. The world was going to go up in flames. I remember those things very well.
Yeah. And they had an impression on you.
Oh yes, they did.
Yeah. Each different, I imagine, from the other. Why was Marilyn Monroe's death so striking?
That the great, the glamorous, the goddesses and gods among us could die, and they could die horrible, lonely deaths. And that, yeah, that was a lot right there. There was no escape from this thing, which we call life and its circumstances.
That even she could.
Even she could.
Yeah.
Yeah, even she could. Yeah, and I loved her, of course, like many people, but I can't say she was the most important star in my in my heavens. But she was important. She was important. Sidney Poitier, for instance, you know, what did he mean? When last year at the Kennedy Center, when my sisters were there with me, and there was a thing that happened in us, and I never met him all these years. Maybe once I did dinner with Alvin Ailey years ago, but there was something when he was introduced to us that it was emotional in a way that we all talked about later that was very exciting. It was more than exciting.
Yeah.
You know, what was that when he did, what was that film he made, not Band of Angels, but the one where he's the handyman for the nuns?
Yes, I know what I don't know the name, but
You
I
know
what you mean, yeah.
But that was the official face. That was the face that we identified with. Intelligent, decent. Sexuality had to be controlled. Muted.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, once in the 70s, I was going to make a solo, which is called I Am Not Sidney Poitier. That was the first time I thought of doing I Have a Dream speech backwards, which I did later do in a piece called Last Supper at Uncle Tom's Cabin. But I am not Sidney Poitier. But meeting him, in answer to your question, he was an event.
Yeah.
He was an event in the cultural sphere that said something about possibility and so on.